Need new glasses or want a fresh new style? Warby Parker has you covered. Glasses start at just $95, including anti-reflective, scratch-resistant prescription lenses that block 100% of UV rays. Every frame's designed in-house with a huge selection of styles for every face shape. And with Warby Parker's free home try-on program, you can order 5 pairs to try at home for free. Shipping is free both ways, too. Go to warbyparker.com/covered to try 5 pairs of frames at home for free. warbyparker.com/covered.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about those films we think might be underrated, underseen, or sometimes we just want to talk about them. So, let's see what it's going to be this week. Hello, thanks for listening. This is Just Films and That, and we're going to talk about a film we think deserves a little bit more love. I'm Josh Hallam.
And I'm Jamie Allen.
And this week we are discussing Angels in the Outfield from 1994. So spoiler warnings if you haven't seen it. Before we start, if you could head on over to whichever app or website or whatever you're listening to this on and give us a little rating and review, it would be massively appreciated. It helps other people hear us and hear our thoughts on films like Angels in the Outfield. We're on Patreon as well. So if you do fancy supporting us and getting a little bit of extra content, click the link in the show notes where you can get ad-free extended episodes with early access from £1 a month. So, Jamie, Angels in the Outfield then.
Oh, give us a 5-star review, by the way, not just a review.
No, give us a bad one.
Give us a 5-star.
Yeah, give us a good review, yeah.
If you're listening to this and being like, it's pretty so-so.
Yeah.
2 stars. No, just give us, go on.
3 and above. I'll take a 3.
No, Josh, we're after 5. And also, anything that we're in competition with any other film podcasts,
Bomb
1-star them.
Yeah,
apart from
especially
mine.
Best Movie 2. Do that one.
Apart from Best Movie 2.
Not over. Speaking of stars, Angels in the Outfield,
nice.
Jamie.
Very nice.
What a link, what a profesh. You picked this one then, so tell everyone at home, what is it about and why did you pick it? Is it just because you love baseball and Angels and a mixture of both?
I love cheating in sports, which we'll get to that. But 1994's Angel in the Outfield follows 2 orphan boys who love their baseball team, the Anaheim Angels. And due to weird phrasing from his dad, Roger, one of the boys, prays that the Angels win the pennant, a thing that I do not know what it is. And only the manager of the team knows that Roger can actually see the Angels that have decided to come down and help the team win. So it's about angels, like actual angels, come down and help a baseball team win the pennant, which is
some sort of trophy, we think.
Yeah, I think it's like the Carabao Cup, I guess.
Yes. So that's what it's about. It's very realistic. Why did you pick it then? Is it underrated? Is it underseen?
Well, I think it's really underseen. I don't think you've seen it, have you?
Hadn't even heard of it, mate. Hadn't even heard of it. It's the sort of film where, and I'll talk about this later, it could be made up. Yeah. It could be a fake film, this. It could be like a Tropic Thunder type trailer or something like that. But no, I don't think I'd ever heard of it. Wasn't easy to find as well because it is a Disney film, but we couldn't find it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so when I said let's do this one, I just assumed it was on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And then had to rent it. So sorry about that. Anyone who likes to follow what we're doing on this and then find themselves. But once
just email Jamie, he'll refund anything that you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
once you give us a 5-star review, just email.
And I thought the only films that had been taken off Disney Plus were, like deeply problematic ones. And this might not be perfect, but I don't think there's anything in there you'd be like, well, that's out of order.
I mean, the bit where
anything like that.
The bit where Danny Glover starts beating the kids is a bit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's where he's like, I've adopted you now, so you're mine.
Yeah.
He starts making them. It's when he makes them make the baseball hat.
That's it. Yeah, it's that bit. So yeah, you're saying it's underseen.
It's underseen, and I think it's under reviewed as well.
Under reviewed as well.
I'm going for the twofer.
Okay.
This one, and this is so this is a sick day film that I remember watching this when I was a kid and had a sick day. and it was just on Channel 4, I think.
Channel 5, surely. This has got
No,
big midweek afternoon Channel 5.
We were raised as good Catholics, so no ITV, no Channel 5.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Just publicly owned broadcasting networks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could have Channel 4 because we were a little bit liberal, you know.
Okay, then. So let's get stuck into it then. So having watched it again, then, what did you like about it? Like, what's in the likes column for you?
So I think it holds up. There's some adult themes, and I know it's a kids' film, but a lot of the Disney ones, especially when they make a kids' film, you'll have like, especially in the first 10 minutes, to get the attention of the younger kids. There's like zany sound effects, or there'll be like a slide whistle, and someone will do something stupid. And the closest they've got to that is Neil McDonough's character, who is unbelievably stupid and thinks that "Oh say can you see" at the start of the national anthem is "Jose, can you see?" And he's kind of out of place a bit, but it doesn't go overboard on like the zaniness. Like there's a bit where David, the minder who's been given to the children, sits in some nachos, and you could see like nowadays there'd be like a wah wah wah. But tonally, like I think this is actually quite adult. Where it's quite dark a bit. There's a bit I won't spoil it yet, just in case we can give people a chance. But one of the characters, like they've got a horrible fate looking for them, and I was like, oh, that's quite dark. Because one of them's mauled by a bear. No. But I think there's some laughs that kind of it keeps me going. I do think it'd be quite hard to write down, like, come up with a load of different ways that angels can cheat in a baseball game. But I think they are quite creative with kind of what the angels do. And yeah, it's a fun, good family film. And I think it's sad that it kind of gets missed. Because it's probably the greatest sports film ever made.
Is it? It's up there with like Raging Bull and Field of Dreams, stuff like that for you.
Yeah.
No, you are right with that. Like they do a lot of the Angels. What they seem to do is just sort of help the players that are already there. Apart from one bit where they literally stop a ball in midair. But for the most part, it's just making them. They're just performance enhancing angels.
Yeah, I mean they kind of gloss over like the moral ambiguity of, apart from in the final. Once the Angels get to the final, you know, Christopher Lloyd shows up on his 3 days of filming for this. And I don't even know if he knew what kid he was talking to.
There's bits where if it was made now, I'd be like, he's not even there.
Yeah, this is like a Robert Downey Jr. type thing.
Yeah.
Like, just say the lines, Chris. He's like, am I meant to be an angel in this? Yeah. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? So I like that. Also, I like that how accidentally stacked the cast is in this. Like,
it's an unbelievable cast. I spent the whole thing going, is that
Adrian Brody is in this?
Is that Matthew McConaughey? Is that Dermot Mulroney?
Yeah. Oh, Dermot Mulroney in like the most non-Dermot Mulroney character.
Yeah,
as well.
And he's a proper scruffy Mulroney in this.
Yeah, and
not the handsome Mulroney that we're used to.
They really play up how much of a scumbag he is when he blows cigarette smoke into his own kid's face and then jumps on a motorbike.
Yeah, and it never really goes into. So he's his dad, and the mum. Do they say she's died, passed away?
I think she's died. I've got a note here saying classic Disney dead parents at the start.
Yeah, dead parents all over it. And it basically, I think it sort of hints that like he just can't cope with.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got some. Obviously, because it's a kid's film, they don't go, "Oh, massive crackhead." Do you know what I mean? They just sort of. I think it's meant to be. He's obviously got some issues, maybe around substance abuse, and he's not suitable to.
I think
the kid. He's a rebel. He's got a motorbike. Everyone.
He killed the mum, and he can't take the guilt. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's it.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt has got the mum's eyes.
Yeah, that's it. He let the rhino out of the cage and just straight through her. But yeah, so
that would have been if Christopher Lloyd towards the end had been like, "Oh, by the way, your dad killed your mum. All right, bye. Bye. Enjoy this free baseball."
So it's very nondescript, can't cope, but it still shows up and stuff like that. But you can sort of let that go because it is very much a family film. I think it is going for a younger audience. I completely agree with what you said, which it does deal with some adult issues, but I think the comedy is more skewed towards kids. It's a lot of adults getting their just desserts, a lot of adults getting their comeuppance, and like, you know, sort of silly sound effects and stuff like that. Not in a bad way, just like that is, I think, just what it is. So because of that, they don't go into that.
they should have had the dad get his just desserts, like have a little report of like, and he crashed his motorbike, but apart from that, the only one I didn't understand, like I've got this in my dislikes, but we can mention it now. They seem to think that we as the audience hate David, the guy who's just doing his job.
Because he's just got a bow tie and he's a bit of a dweeb.
Yeah, and it's that classic thing of like, if someone has a job and they take the job seriously, let's just ridicule. And the boys like laugh at him getting like mustard spray on his favorite clothes. He's snooty enough that you can tell he probably doesn't like baseball. He's just a guy who, and he even says like, "You are going to fire me at the end of the week, aren't you?" And he's like, "No, you're not getting fired." It's like, why does the film hate this guy? It reminded me of that. Do you know in Jurassic World when the woman who's been hired to look after the kids gets like the most horrific death in the entire franchise, where she thinks she's alive, she lands in the water, and then she's eaten like by two different species.
Yeah, it's just one of those sort of the person in the most direct authority, isn't it? So it's like you got to bring him down a peg. So like you say, he's sitting in nachos, he's getting squirted with mayo. At one point, he's wearing a rain poncho, seemingly covered in condiments.
I like he has a different variety of outfits. At one point, he's wearing a beekeeper's hat, which I liked. That he's just coming up with different ways. What are these
suit
kids
of armor,
doing?
1950s divers outfit, everything. So it is a stacked cast, like I said. We've got Matthew McConaughey, Adrian Brody, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like pre-Third Rock from the Sun,
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza. Yeah, sorry, Christopher Lloyd. Danny Glover's obviously the sort of the main star in this.
Brenda Fricker, the
Brenda
pigeon
Fricker,
lady.
yeah, from Casualty, and that's what she's mainly known from. American listeners, that's a soap opera. You'll know her as Pigeon Lady / Oscar-winning actress for My Left Foot, or Oscar nominated. I can't remember if she won. But I mean, it's a stacked cast,
and I think it's the quality of the script drew them in. I think this is a good script. I think it's got like the character arcs that you have are really strong. I think it kind of goes through different loopholes to explain why he's not just saying to everyone, "I can see angels,"
and no one thinks he's just mental.
Yeah, it's like realistically, Danny Glover would have been like, "I don't ever want to see this kid have his picture at every exit."
I think this kid's got PTSD from quite a bad time. So.
And everyone's got like a little hint of sadness. Like, Danny Glover talks about kind of he made himself like not like the world just to protect himself, and when he's like advising Roger on how to cope with trouble, and he's actually a really good father figure, and it's one of them where towards the end what happens isn't a surprise because they've peppered in like him loosening up. I think one of the really pivotal scenes in this is when he thanks the kids by taking the local kids for like a game of baseball, and that's a really good like, he's a human guy, and that's probably him realizing he's missing this like father role.
It's a bit of a classic melting the heart of ice type story, isn't it? Because he's grumpy, almost a bit too much of a prick at the beginning, but he does quickly come down from that.
I think what they do really well is they have the other commentator who's more of a prick.
Yeah.
So when he punches him, you are like, yeah, nice.
Yeah, the guy who looks like sort of real life Joe from Family Guy, who's in.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've seen him in is Green Lantern. But yeah, so then you're right. There's a really interesting stuff with the script there. What I've got here in my notes that there is. And you don't always get this, so it shouldn't just be taken as read, but there's good character depth. We've talked about this before. I'm not sure if me and you have talked about it, but me and Alice definitely have, which is it feels like the world of the film existed before it started and went on to exist after. It wasn't just you were watching characters that popped up out of nowhere, lived the journey and the character arcs, and then went away again, like into dust or whatever. So there's some good character depth in there. I thought there's quite an interesting message around adoption and fostering. It's quite warts and all about it. It's not, just to write that and have that interesting. I think that's quite an interesting decision to put the dad in it and have the dad as a deeply, deeply flawed character to the point where he essentially starts the plot off by being unreliable and making a promise he's not going to keep to his son to just sort of keep him happy and sort of thing. And I thought that was quite interesting because that is being quite I don't know. I'm not an expert in fostering and adoption and stuff like that, but I imagine it's a little bit more of a take that you'd see more often than you might see in other films where it covers adoption. Like I don't know. The first example that's comes to mind is Stuart Little, and that's a mouse. But you know that sort of thing, that sort of overly saccharine sweet type thing.
Yeah, I think on this as well, they managed to reflect kind of foster homes quite well, where she's not a evil foster mum.
No.
But also it's not everything's great. They sleep in sleeping bags. She is struggling financially. Like they kind of handle that really well. That it's not one way or the other. It's like, look, this is not a permanent situation for someone. People cannot live like this because Brenda Ficker is poor. She probably is feeding pigeons out the back and waiting for Macaulay Culkin to come along with that sweet sequel money. But also, they love being there. I thought it was quite funny when Miguel got adopted, and even though he seemed like a bit of a dick himself, but they were quite sad that he was gone. So it kind of summed up that kids get bullied in foster care, but it's because the kind of kids that are in foster care probably have a rough life.
And it even goes a little bit into like bureaucracy. And there's a kids film, and she's like, "I can't have you because I've only got this license." And it's like I'd never even thought of that before, and it's covered it in a kids film. So yeah, no, I thought that was really interesting, that idea of the dad's flawed, but he's still in his life, sort of thing.
Yeah. So and also like. Should we get into kind of the other emotion bomb?
Let's get into it.
So it's a spoiler.
Is it that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in this grew up in a foster care? So did his character in The Dark Knight Rises. So therefore, they could be the same guy.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, just a thought. If we're going to talk sequels, but anyway, go on. What's the emotion bomb?
They have that bit at the end where you go, "You should use my real name, Mr. Baseball Angel." No, it's that. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. But towards the end, so Tony Danza is this. He's a pitcher who's like old, and he's not played all year because he's got a bad shoulder. And he comes into the film, like you start to warm to him. You can tell he likes the kids, and there's no angels allowed in the very last game. And Knox, who's Danny Glover's character, is going to bring him out, and the Christopher Lloyd, the head angel, tells Joseph Gordon-Levitt this is his last game because he's going to die of cancer. He's going to die of lung cancer because he smokes the following year. And it's like really heavy because normally kids films, like they don't tell you that people don't have cancer in kids films, and there's just sort of like a real sadness that it's not like, oh, the thing I'm going to do is going to cure his cancer. It's that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like, well, I want him to have a great ending and a great last game. So they trick him into thinking that he does have an angel. So that's where they tell you that deceit is good, kids. And obviously Tony Danza, thinking that he's got an angel, absolutely smashes the last pitch of the game. I don't really understand the rules of baseball, but I get that because he's a pitcher, he throws it, the batter hits it, but he catches it himself, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
And it's like a good 1-2 of like in a sports movie when you see the batter hit the ball, you're like, oh no, the bad thing has happened because he was supposed to put it through to the other guy.
It's a bit of a fake out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he catches it and then he obviously dies of cancer.
Do you think the film's making a point there? Or do you think it's like doing the like the policeman coming into your school talking to you about drugs or don't messing about on the railway sort of thing? Is it don't smoke or is it because it's not a morality piece by any admission or anything like that, but there's definitely messages in there for kids, and I'd say overall fairly positive messages because also there's the message about smoking, but also it does go into the foster and adoption system, but they do find happiness.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the message that you'd take from Danny Glover's character is, don't lock yourself off from like, love and having a family. I do. So the other spoiler is that it's Danny Glover ends up adopting the two kids. I would have preferred it where Danny Glover adopts the two kids and Tony Danza as his like adult son.
Or Danny Glover falls in love with Brenda Fricker.
but did you like the reveal where he's like, I'm adopting Roger, and then the other kid's like, oh no, and then he waits a couple of beats to be like,
yeah, it's like the Mr. Bean painting. He's like, fuck you, I'm going to make you think.
Yeah.
I'm not a dog. Yeah, and the other kid as well. He's young. He's like 7.
Yeah.
Also, it's like just tell him like he's not down for subtlety, mate. Like
Yeah, and it's like
not a
it's
Woody
like
Allen film. Just tell him you're adopting him.
Yeah. Or even beforehand, before you even get the papers, just make them aware. Look, I'm getting the ball rolling on this.
Yeah.
But this is one of them, because it's a Disney film. It's one of them where, like, if you call in the afternoon to inquire about adoption, in the evening you've already got your receipt. They're like, here you go.
CRB's come back. You're absolutely fine.
All that drug driving, you're not going to do that anymore, are you?
It's spent now, isn't it? Spent. But yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's another emotion bomb at the end where, because I think they kind of distract you with thinking, well, Roger's perfect outcome, the outcome that we want for this film, is that his dad comes back to look after him. So they don't signpost it that much. I think if you're a kid, that will surprise you because you go, oh yeah, of course, that's a thing that can happen. He's a rich manager, yeah, he can adopt them, and he likes them. So I think they do that really well, like just giving you that bit of information.
Okay, so we'll move on then to talking about things that we perhaps didn't like or that we might change about Angels in the Outfield. I mean, is there anything for you, Jamie? It feels a little bit like kicking a puppy, like because it's such a sort of sweet film in many ways, which we'll come back to. But is there anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a better writer than me could justify the cheating, because it is cheating.
It is cheating. Yeah.
I guess you'd have to. The only way you could explain it is if the other teams are bad, or all the other teams are cheating, or this team is so down on their luck. Because the fact is, they don't deserve to be winning. Like they're not good at baseball. And also, this is nitpicking, but because I don't think there is much wrong with this film. But the actual owner of the club, like at the start when Danny Glover's like, we're not winning, and he's like, I didn't bring you in to win. It's fine where you are now. Just don't go past this certain point. He does not care that there's no threat to Danny Glover's job at all. As soon as they're actually top of the league and they're doing amazing, and someone puts in the press in one of like the most Christian countries in the world, someone says he thinks he can see angels, and the owner's like, you got to step down. It's like, what are you on about? No, if anything, this is going to be great for us. And
no, not having that. Not having that around this club.
And that kind of felt a bit shoehorned in. The press conference where you need that moment where all the players stand up and they're like, I support Danny Glover, blah, blah, blah. When really they'd be like, oh, he is mental.
Yeah. It's almost like stakes for stakes' sake, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think, because you got the stakes in that final game. And they've added. That's why you add the Tony Danza bit, because it's like it's not just that they lose. This is this guy's last ever game as well. I don't think Knox's career is riding on if they win or not.
It doesn't seem to be, does it? It seems to be that he's just sort of ambling along. And
the actual stakes are what are going to happen to these kids, because they're not going to see the Angels next year, because the Angels have already said it's one and done. So there's no reason for the club to keep the kids around. If anything, they're probably going to take the brunt of the hate next year when the team messes up. And people are like, it was that kid's fault. He did something and he's not doing it anymore.
Go find that kid. He'd ruin his life.
Yeah.
He'd ruined our team. No, I think that's a good point. So that ties into the main thing I've got to say about this sort of thing, which is that I don't think it's aged that well. And I don't mean that there's any problematic language or anything like that. I think that in terms of the style, we've seen plenty of these early 90s, mid-90s films where stuff just happens.
Yeah.
And I think that very much fell into this. I think if you made this now, I don't think you get, because this is a remake, isn't it? It's actually a remake of a film from the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot more problematic.
Which also isn't on Disney Plus, probably because it's really problematic.
I think the Angels, like, they put like cocaine in the other players,
but it's legal because it's the 50s.
Just horse tranquilizers for everyone.
Polio, everyone. No, everyone.
Asbestos in the outfield.
No, but I think if you made this now, you don't get this sort of family film in this specific mold. If you did, it would almost be like a Hallmark Channel type of thing. You'd know, and I don't think you'd attract the cast and stuff that they get in this, which is why I think I said it feels like a fake film.
Yeah, if you make this now, I think we joked about it before, but the Brenda Fricker character is played by someone like beautiful and like very shy and doesn't really understand these. But they don't put
makeup on them, and it's like, look, you won't recognize this star. So normal.
And then she dresses up for like a formal event that the coach has taken, and then he marries her, and she's like, "Oh, because he's married me, that license that has been reduced because of my drinking problem isn't that bad anymore." Like, there would be a romance there. There's not actually a romance in this, which is...
No, there's not. There's not. The only love story is family love, isn't it? So, no, I do think it has aged in that sense. I think for me, it does skew a little young, and that's not a criticism because I think that's what they went for, and I think they achieved it. I do wonder if kids now would get out of it what kids in 1994 got out of it, because I think, any kids I know, like my nieces and nephews and stuff like that, they're just on an iPad. Do you know what I mean? And there's that Angels in it, great, yeah, back to Angry Birds or whatever. I did think it was a little bit sickly sweet, which is again why I think it's aged badly. It wasn't particularly like to my taste, but I don't think that was necessarily wrong. It's just like my sort of personal opinion, because I think, again, they went for something and they achieved it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I remember you told me you don't like seeing foster kids get homed.
No.
No. But yeah,
survival of the fittest, isn't it?
I can get how it's sickly, but again, those more adult bits that come in, like the trouble he has with his dad, the stuff you've got going on with Tony Danza, I think covers it well. But yeah, it's a film about angels coming down to help.
Exactly.
So yeah, do you think some people, like, when you see the whole crowd do the angel sign, are some people like, oh, sod off?
I reckon so, yeah. I reckon so. I think there's probably definitely an element of nostalgia tied up in this. I think if you watched it back then, it's similar when we did Beethoven not that long ago. Alice really loved it because she'd seen it when she was a kid, and I hadn't seen it when I was a kid. So you come at it from two completely different points of view. But you know what? I've said it already. I think they went out to make something they did, and if you don't like it, then that's fine. But it definitely aged in terms of style, but that's not really the film's fault. It's just the way things have changed in the last 30 years or so.
So is this not slotted into your top 10 films of all time?
Top 10? It's in my top 10 of baseball films. Okay, so we'll move on to the critical reception, then we'll decide if it is underrated, underseen, because Jamie's gone for the coveted double whammy. So, Jamie, I haven't seen the scores, so I don't think this did that well. I can imagine it probably didn't do great. I think this is probably a solid 6 for me, in terms of, it probably would be higher, I think, if it was my sort of cup of tea, and I think it definitely probably hits the marks that a lot of the audience the intended audience that it's aiming for want from it. I think it's probably a solid 6, but I'm going to say that it's probably coming in the sort of 5s. But I might be wrong. How did it do?
Yeah, so IMDb 6.2.
Okay,
not bad. And Rotten Tomatoes. So I'll give you Rotten Tomatoes audience first.
Okay,
49%. So you were pretty good on the 5s there.
Yeah.
Critics, 32%.
Oh, that's come on.
That's
They've
rough,
got no
isn't it?
joy in their hearts.
Yeah,
32.
That's rough.
Yeah, so what was that? 62, 32, and what was the audience on?
And 49.
49. Yeah, so that averages out at just about 47 or 4.7 out of 10. I'll be honest, I'm going to say that's underrated for me.
Yes, there we go, Josh. That's what I like
think
to hear.
Underrated, and I think it's probably underseen because again, not that I'm the be all and end all, but I'd never even heard of it. It wasn't easy to get hold of, and I do wonder if people. This seems like the sort of film that they might make now. Again, do you know what I mean? As in remake it, but change it so that the angels are superheroes or something like.
Yeah, put Shia LaBeouf as Tony Danza. Yeah, well, but it's not a bad film and does deserve to kind of, when you think of all the tat that they've got on Disney Plus. I think this is like just a fun little family one that you can put on. And it can explain, like, look, there's different lifestyles that kids have that aren't just the traditional home. Here's an explanation. And if you pray, your prayers will always be answered.
And your sports team will win one season because you cheat.
I made this wish in 2005 during the Champions League final.
Maybe
at
a lot of
half-time.
Leicester fans made this wish. Anyway, yes. So, Angels in the Outfield, underrated and underseen.
Yeah, well, that was fun. So, what are we doing next week, Josh?
Next week, we are going back into the world of 007. And we're going to be watching and talking about, I can see your face, you're so excited. We're going to be watching and talking about Tomorrow Never Dies from 1997. So, yeah, you know the music. It's going to be a good week, guys. Oh,
yeah, we'll have fun
if you want to hear Jamie do the music again next week, because he probably will, then tune in. Yes, so join us next week. We're going to be talking about Tomorrow Never Dies. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us and suggest a film, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias. If you search for Just Films and That on Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, and you'll find us. We're always putting stuff out there. We'll see you next week for Tomorrow Never Dies. It's goodbye from me. Cheerio.
And it's goodbye from me, Jamie. Yay.
Need new glasses or want a fresh new style? Warby Parker has you covered. Glasses start at just $95, including anti-reflective, scratch-resistant prescription lenses that block 100% of UV rays. Every frame's designed in-house with a huge selection of styles for every face shape. And with Warby Parker's free home try-on program, you can order 5 pairs to try at home for free. Shipping is free both ways, too. Go to warbyparker.com/covered to try 5 pairs of frames at home for free. warbyparker.com/covered.
Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. Parents can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and more. Plus, keep an eye on spending with real-time notifications. Join more than 6 million parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/ACAST. That's greenlight.com/ACAST.